Hi, I'm Rose Pellar, life change coach who is also a divorce lawyer and the founder of the Beyond Divorce to Happiness program. This is video 4 in a series of videos which I've put together to help you to get through your divorce and beyond so you can find happiness. This video is about what to do when you want a divorce and your spouse does not want you to go. Whether or not you've had discussions before about your dissatisfaction with the marriage, it is a very delicate subject when you have finally made the decision to end the marriage and you know that your husband wants to stay married. We won't go into the reasons why you want to end your marriage because for everyone there are a myriad of reasons, and even sometimes it is not because you simply don't love your spouse anymore. It may be that you feel you have no recourse but to leave. I found myself in that situation myself many years ago, and it doesn't matter if you're the one who has decided to end the marriage or not. Making the decision known to your spouse can be full of anxiety. In video 2 in this series, I indicated that the number one priority when the marriage is over is your physical safety. This is totally the case when you are breaking the news to your husband. You cannot predict how your spouse will react, and it is best to choose the right time and the right space. When I decided to break the news to my husband, I made sure that the children were away from home. My husband and I had gone to his office Christmas party, and so it was a good excuse to have the children babysat by a friend of mine away from home. We had a great time at the party, and it would have been easy to think that maybe I was making a mistake to end the marriage. However, it had been 9 years coming, and I knew I would only be delaying the inevitable when I told him. He did not react immediately, and I wasn't quite sure whether or not it had sunk in. I felt safe enough that I collected the children and brought them home the following day. As the days passed, I noticed my husband's brooded mood, and in an attempt to make him feel better, I told him we can still be friends. I had good intentions, but it was maybe a month after our separation that I realized the folly of my statement. Not everyone is mature enough to do this, and it became apparent that my husband only saw this as an open door for possible reconciliation. It was a cruel thing to promise under those circumstances. Do not promise anything that you may not be able to deliver on. As an aside, I am aware that some couples are able to remain friends after divorce, but typically this is hard when one spouse has difficulty letting go, and this can become awkward when the other commences a new relationship. As time went on and I made plans to move forward to sell our home and find a place for me and my boys to live, my husband's mood became darker. I did not hate my husband, but I did not love him anymore, and I knew I could not live with him. It was my mental health and the well-being of my kids and myself which I had to give priority to. Consequently, I found myself having many one-way discussions with my husband, mainly because he would not respond or converse, but I reassured him that he would always be a father to our children, and that he would always see them, and that he was not totally to blame. In retrospect, I am not sure whether this helped or hindered, but I was concerned for his emotional well-being since I knew the breakup was especially difficult for him. One night I found him sitting in the dark in our living room, and I saw an envelope addressed to me sitting on the coffee table. When I picked it up, he grabbed it from me. Again, I tried to engage him in conversation to no avail. He eventually went off to bed, and I went to the boy's room where I laid awake, somewhat fearing the unmentionable. He settled down a bit after that, and we made it through to the day when I and the boys moved away. I sometimes question whether I did the right thing staying in the home before we moved, even though it worked out okay. Unfortunately, I know of women who were not as fortunate. I seriously recommend that if you have any indication whatsoever that your safety or the children's safety is at risk, you should remove yourself from the home. Even if your safety is not threatened, sometimes your spouse may make it very difficult for you by baiting you into arguments. I would like to think that my caring gestures did help, and although you ought not to play counselor for your spouse, being caring is definitely going to help the situation. If you notice brooding or depression from your spouse, encourage him to get help from a counselor. Men generally tend to not seek help and do not typically have the support of friends or family. Do not harp on the topic of your leaving, and only discuss important steps that need to be acted upon immediately. For example, the listing of your home for sale and possibly the division of household contents and vehicles, etc. If possible, let your divorce lawyer do the talking for you about support and division of property. However, it would be ideal if you could talk with your spouse about what sharing of parenting will look like. If not, let your lawyer do the talking for you. Do not start a new relationship before you leave the marriage, as this will be like a red flag to a bull. Remember, your husband doesn't want you to leave, and there's no need to complicate matters. Furthermore, for your own good, it is best to disentangle your relationship with your spouse and work on yourself before considering a new relationship. After the physical separation, please pay attention to signals that you were getting from your ex or by way of accounts from the children, but of course do not use your children as spies. Had I been more aware, I may have been able to foresee the danger I would later walk into when I was confronted by my ex to return home, and when I said no, I found myself staring down the barrel of a loaded and cocked rifle. When deciding to leave a spouse who doesn't want you to go, fear may hold you captive. I know my mother weighed up the pros and cons, and for her, divorce was not an option. She feared that my father would have killed us, and she gave up her own future to safeguard us. For me, it was the only option because I had no inkling that my ex would have been capable of deliberately wanting to harm me or the children. I have long forgiven my ex, as I understand it wasn't really his desire to harm me. It was his fear of loss. I believe he's now happy in a relationship, and so am I. To recap, remember, if your spouse is not ready for a breakup, make physical safety your priority. Pick the time and place to break the news. Do not make promises you may not be able to keep. Pay attention to your husband's mood or change in mood. Encourage him to get help or support. And be kind and respectful. Do not start a new relationship before you leave the marriage. Do not harp on the breakup and only discuss important things you need to. Have your lawyer communicate with him to settle legal issues. Remove yourself from the home if you sense you or your children are at risk. Pay attention to signals you receive from your ex or from accounts from your children regarding your ex's mental state or behavior. I hope you found this video helpful. Please leave a comment below and let me know if there are any other issues you would like addressed. I will be sharing later on news about my upcoming virtual Beyond Divorce to Happiness program. So please follow me on Facebook at https://www.facebook.com/divorce and the number 2 happiness. I will post this on so that you can refer to it. Also, please feel free to send me an email with any questions you may have at info@divorcetohappiness.com. To your happiness, I am Rose Pellar, life change coach who is the divorce lawyer and the founder of the Beyond Divorce to Happiness program. See you soon.